mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. I'm only here to even the score. Whoa. My mind is set, my grind is set, my heart on ice cold. We down right now, but did it before. Whoa. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up. See from here we going up. Made the call, I shown up. Now the game is on up. Say my name is blown up. We up, 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 we up.
What up, Night Nation, and welcome to another episode of the Knighted Ones podcast. Unfortunately, this week, we do have to start with a little bit of sad news. Obviously, most of you have heard that unfortunately we lost one of our own this week, and I wanted to start at the top before I even said anything about anything else, because there's not only the UCF family that has lost someone that's close to us, the App State family, many people across the coaching ranks and in college football, but also a wife and three kids that unfortunately are mourning the loss of our offensive line coach, Sean Clark. By all accounts, a good man, a good father, and a good human being. So I wanted to start the top of the show by just saying our thoughts and prayers. I know I've said some prayers for him and his family. We did post on our Twitter stream. There's a fundraiser that's going on for his family as well. So if you are so inclined, please check it out on Twitter or X, as they like to call it, on our account and contribute if you can. So I just wanted to say, you know, we're all affected by this. He's 50 years old. He's only 6 years older than I am. I can't imagine losing a family member at that age. By all accounts, a great man, a great father, and a great human being, and a great football coach. So thinking of you and your family, and wishing nothing but the best. So on that unfortunately somber note, it is another special episode this week. It's number 103. We do have Fireball Matt in the house. As you guys know, my favorite drink is Fireball, so we're excited to have him. He's here from the K-State podcast to help us understand a little bit more about what the heck's going on with K-State and what we should expect in the game. As a reminder, we're the only podcast that features a former UCF national champion, a former UCF radio host, an ESPN analyst and hoops player, an infamous rapper, a resident influencer, and IG star shooting the breeze talking UCF sports. Remember to like and follow us on YouTube, IG, and check out the 70-plus teams and conferences on the College Huddle, and obviously check us out on the Big 12 Huddle. So without further ado, I'm going to bring the crew to the stage. The aforementioned national champion, you all know him well. He should recognize this shirt because it's from 2017.
UC Fierce,
and
baby.
UCF Fierce. UC Fierce. All right. Welcome to the show, Trey Neal. Welcome back, my friend.
What's up? What's up? How you guys doing?
I see we beat North Carolina and, you know, you show up. I see how that works. So all we have to do is keep beating teams. So K-State has to do its job for you to show up the next week. That's what I just heard. All right. Next to the stage, our resident IG star, Alan Levin. Welcome back to the stage and give us that good hair flip.
Yo, what's going on?
There it is. All right. So I got called out. As you guys know, I was doing a broadcast with the Heel Brothers, and I got called out by default for saying I did not have enough hair for my hat. And I just wanted to point that out. I do have plenty of hair on that head of mine, but great hair flip. Great to have you back. Next to the stage, we're going to bring someone you all should know. He's usually last, but not least. But this week, he's not going to be last because we have Fireball Matt. So welcome Josh Lazar back to the stage. Josh, what it do?
UCF. There we go. UCF's mission in full precision, our vision to leave in diminished condition, the bounce house roaring, the fans exploring, our pride adorning. And UCF just kept on scoring. The Knights' posture, we bounce harder. Jordan is tabloid father. It's a UCF slaughter. The heels were shook. Their goose was cooked. The victory was booked. And overall, it was a solid look. The game that vigorous. They could not get with this. Crown Chancer continuous, so says the infamous.
All right. Thank you for that one. Way to spice us up and a great intro for Fireball Matt. So Fireball, welcome to our crazy show. We start with hair flips and raps. When we win, when we don't, Josh withholds that from us. Welcome. Whoa! What happened?
Start with the hair flip. You know?
Well, that's a hair flip. That's more
a
like
hair
a
flip.
hat flip. Oh,
I don't-
Tim in Florida says, "Oh my God, Josh, please stop."
I don't got a rap for y'all.
No rap for us, huh?
No.
All right. Well, let's make it a K-State trap game. So instead of a rap, as Mark says, let's make it a K-State trap game. So we come in and to the stadium, and hopefully we come away with the win. But that being said, we are an underdog in this game. Obviously, we have a lot of respect for K-State. For those of you that did the Big 12 preview with us, you know that I expected a lot of great things out of Avery Johnson and K-State. However, UCF finds itself as 6.5-point dogs or 3.5-point dogs, depending on where you are. ESPN has us as K-State as a favorite at 56.7%. But there are a lot of questions over on that side of the world. And so we're going to ask you a couple of those to kind of try to figure them out. So I watched the opening game of the season, close one. You've had nail biters pretty much all season long. You just can't seem to get over the hump. What is going on with K-State football right now?
Yeah, wonderful question. I mean, I think there's a lot of people in our fan base who obviously are not important that are asking the same question, but I think the coaching staff is probably asking the same question as well. This is just not a good football team right now. You can look at the Ireland game, and we've obviously seen what Iowa State has been able to do after the Ireland game, and they've looked very good. They haven't other than the Arkansas State game, which I know is a little bit of, you're on the road against a team that is going to put all their fight in to try and beat, a Power 5 team at home. But we are just not a good football team right now. I could absolutely say that there is no position group that has looked great. I think the coaching staff has done a really poor job of getting these guys to play with effort throughout 4 quarters. We are very lucky to have even 1 quarter of good play in a game right now. I saw Vegas come out with a 6.5-point spread, and I ask how, because if you look at the 4 games, this team could easily be 0-4, and you lose against a North Dakota team at home. This team could easily be 0-4. I said, it's been just real puzzling to a lot of us, because we had high expectations for this team. Now, there are some people that look at it and say, you got 8 games in Big 12 play. Yeah, you come off a bye week. Can you get this team focused to win a game at home and kind of get rolling on the schedule? There are some people that think that. I don't know if I'm there yet. I just don't know if this team is, it has the effort right now to be able to beat anyone, which is just an extremely puzzling situation.
Well, it starts with the offense, right? So traditionally, K-State has always had good offensive lines and defensive lines. That's where the success has always been. And football is won in the trenches. So you would expect, even if the offense isn't performing at its peak, the lines will keep you in it at the very least, and a lot of times win games. So we saw that the first time we played against Avery Johnson before he was the starter. He came in for a game against UCF, and he absolutely ran over us. And that's one of his strengths, right, is he likes to run. And when you have a strong offensive line, that typically is the case. So, what's going on with Avery Johnson? What's going on with the offensive line? For us, we had a lot of turnover. We only have 1 returning lineman from our previous season. What's going on with K-State? Because that's something that they're known for.
Yeah, I'll start with Avery Johnson. Ultimately, he was, he is the maybe the face of the program, you could say. He's a Kansas kid. It was a highly touted prospect from the state of Kansas that chose K-State. And in reality, as somebody who sometimes tends to be more pessimistic than other K-State fans, I thought the first 3 games he looked all right. He had some really big flashes in those games, some passes that he made that, you could tell he has improved from last season to this season. And you take the Army game out of the equation where the offense was on the field for 3 minutes in the entire second half.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
A crazy kind of second half that, we just couldn't get off the field defensively. Avery is has shown really good things in those first 3 games. And then the Arizona game comes through and he just really nosedived in that game. The offense really couldn't get anything going in the first half. The third quarter, we are able to get the game tied up because of a 75-yard, run by or a jet sweep by a wide receiver. Really wasn't Avery doing too much other than he did run for a touchdown. But that's been really the theme this season, is that the thought process with Avery is throwing the football. In reality, he's one of the quickest guys on the team, and he's not running the football, as much as we saw last year. And the year before, when he was sharing time with Will Howard, he was primarily running the football.
Yeah, Will Howard. How do Kansas State fans feel about Will Howard versus Avery Johnson now?
It's a lot of things with that. In reality, if you have Will Howard last season, is the team going to improve on the record versus Avery? I don't know. For as good as Will looked at Ohio State, and I have no ill will, I cheered for Will Howard last year. He's a kid from Pennsylvania that, I had heard about when he was a senior in high school. And for him to have an opportunity to go to Ohio State, a lot of us were very excited about Avery Johnson. He's a Kansas kid and Will had to make a decision and he made the right decision from his standpoint to go and he won a national championship. I would have chosen Avery Johnson last year, not because I wanted to see Will Howard go, but, for what we saw from Avery, I felt he was the one to be able to lead this program. I still think he can be, but his mindset has to shift to, taking opportunities to run the football. And a lot of that, I think, will come from the coaching staff, of failing Avery here early on this season. You had mentioned the lines, and I do think it's important to talk through that. The offensive line did shift, over from last season. We had to replace, a good portion of the line. A guy that we have not had this season is George Fitzpatrick, who did transfer over from Ohio State, that had a medical episode in August and has not been on the field. We do hope that he comes back, hopefully in the October timeframe. He will not be, playing for the UCF game. So a lot of it has been kind of trying to get this offensive line going together. I think they have improved for the most part, but our biggest difficulty right now is running the football, and they haven't necessarily done a great job with, providing what our running backs need to get them opportunities. But a lot of that also is on the running backs, who have not looked good. Dylan Edwards has been out, who admittingly you could say is probably one of the top 3 offensive players that we need to have on the field, has not been playing. So the offense has been, a disaster. You can definitely say that.
Offensive?
Yeah, it's been offensive, especially the Arizona game, which just looked really poor. And that's the hope. I was in Ireland for our game, and we had the pep rally, and Avery Johnson was pretty adamant about how our offense, was going to look this season from being explosive, and a lot of the athleticism that with the new wide receivers that we brought in. And outside of some flashes of that, it hasn't been consistent. And, for this team to go anywhere, they have to find some consistency in the offensive side, or it's going to be a very, very long eight games to end the season.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So you're talking about stats. Offense has definitely been one of the challenges for K-State this year. 24.3 points per game. You're not going to win a lot of games if you're only averaging 24 points per game. Another stat that jumped out at me is 31% on third downs. UCF has been really, really strong defensively and offensively in third down situations. And then the other thing was, to your point, 108 yards per game rushing and averaging 4.4, which is not bad, but only 108 yards per game. So is that like a time of possession thing where the offense isn't on the field long enough? I heard coaches, I watched his interview today. He talked a lot about players, pushing through and kind of giving up and not giving that little extra. He also talked a lot about being in third and long situations and not being able to overcome those. So is that because you guys are going pass happy, not maybe completing a pass, and then you end up in a longer down and distance kind of situation? Or what's the cause of that? Because 108 yards per game is low for a K-State team.
Yeah. K-State historically has been a very strong rushing the football. It's kind of maddening to see a little bit of kind of a mindset shift more to the pass game this season, especially when we're not seeing the success that we need to. One of the things that I'll be very interested to see on Saturday that has been a theme this season has been in those third and 4, third and 5, third and 6. And Avery's progressions are trending towards receivers running routes that are 1 to 2 yards short of the sticks. He's really, and you do wonder on how much is it on Avery Johnson or how much is it on the offensive coordinator of calling plays and getting guys short of the sticks when you're not in a position to get first downs. That the third and fourth down offense this season has been really bad. And so you have to expect that you look at some of the film in these first 4 games, knowing that, yes, you're not necessarily out of having, a season that you could maybe be proud of. It's going to take a Herculean effort, to even get there. But it's trying to be successful on those third downs. And, you had mentioned the rushing game being so poor, and 108 yards. That's not a lot. No, it's been, really struggling to run inside of the tackles. And I don't think this is an offense with a guy like Dylan Edwards that you're going to see a lot of success rushing in between tackles. He's more of a guy that with explosive speed, trying to get him on the outside. And we haven't seen enough of that. It's been a lot of when he's been out. We've had a guy, Joe Jackson, who's a little bit of kind of a bigger back, but hasn't had success on first down running the football. It's just, it just hasn't been good. So it's when you don't have a consistent rushing offense, you're then putting yourself in positions where you have a 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8 that you're not able to convert. And that has been very much a theme this season for this offense.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? So I was looking at a couple of things here. One, I will say this, one of UCF's strengths, which will not bode well for your running game, is our defensive line, especially the interior linemen. We've got 4 great interior linemen that will rotate. Our ends are pretty good. We've got 4 pretty good ends that we can rotate in and out as well. Avery Johnson, in his youth, when I was watching him, he did not run through. When he was running, he was either running to the edge or he was running BC gap, somewhere around there, right? He's going to run sideline to sideline. If they become one-dimensional, that's going to be a tough day for them because we'll bring the linebackers down and they have a lot of speed, and the DBs. When I was looking at his statistics, what's interesting to me is in September, he was 28 of 54. He only completed 51.9% of his passes, which is the lowest pass completion percentage he's had. For the year, he's around 60%. At home, he's much better. He's at about 65.3%. So it's interesting to me. And his average pass has been yards per attempt has been about 4.8 yards. You're not going to win a lot of football games that way either. So it's very, very interesting for me to see, to kind of dissect this, because it feels like he's trending down, at least from a passing percentage perspective, but he obviously plays a lot better at home.
Yeah, and I think if you compare this season to last season, or at least the kind of the beginnings of the season, he has had more explosive plays throwing the football this season, which has been last year. One of the things that we talked about is, can he improve in the offseason of hitting passes more accurately downfield, 30, 40-yard passes. And he's shown that in these games. The Arizona game did not have a lot of opportunities for that. And in reality, there was just no success, kind of throwing the football in that game, which does not trend well because that's the last game that we had. But, Avery.
A lot of drops too, though.
A lot of drops, yes. And that is a completely fair thing to bring up, because for how highly touted some of these receivers were coming in, who I will say, if these receivers somehow caught these balls, we'd be talking about this is one of the better receiving cores that we've had in kind of recent K-State memory, because I do see athleticism with these receivers, but the drops have really killed Avery in some of these things. So one thing I will just state, you had mentioned the UCF defensive front being strong. And one of the things for me in the past, season and a half that I see with Avery is, I believe Avery Johnson's strongest strength is being able to, on the fly, make a play. And if teams are bringing blitzes on him, he is a guy that at least last season would find a way to get out of that blitz and go downfield, make a play with his legs and get something positive. This season, he's really regressed in that area. He, if a team is blitzing, he will cut out and still be looking downfield, but he kind of sticks there and doesn't make a play with his legs anymore. And that for me has been a really big regression from a trait perspective that I don't know where that's coming from, because in reality, he is a guy that with his speed, you should be taking advantage of opportunities where if the defense is blitzing and you're having to roll out, being able to make a play for some type of positive gain, is one way. If he's able to improve, even start on that, at the UCF game, I feel like the offense will have more momentum, and it puts maybe some things, I say this in jest, maybe in our favor, but we haven't seen that in the first, third of the season. So it doesn't make me think that we're going to see that the rest of, these games.
It sounds to me like coaching has asked him basically to stay in the pocket a little bit more. I remember seeing him against UCF the first time, and he was rolling out to the boundary side, and he would roll out and then he'd throw a pass down the field, and he could complete it for 20 and 30 yards on the run. But I will tell you this, we have an aggressive defense. This defense is giving up 9 yards per game. And most of the time that's because we've got our 2s, 3s, and 4s in when they score. So the first half, nobody scored on us the first half all season long. So they will come after them. We do have a lot of blitzes. We do have disguised blitzes. We do a pretty good job of bringing folks down, and we have a lot of team speed. We traded our linebackers this year with Scott Frost. Our linebackers this year are a little bit smaller. They're not 6'3", 6'4", 240. They're like 6'2", 225, et cetera. But we've traded a lot of speed. So they're getting to the ball pretty quick. And the DBs are pretty good. So I expect them to bring the house pretty much, at least early and often. What happens if UCF gets off to a fast start offensively? Do you have the horsepower to come back in a game like that? It's the Big 12. We're used to people like coming back from like 3 touchdowns down, right? But
do I believe that we have the talent to come back? Yes. But do I believe that the effort for this team is there? No. The North Dakota game, albeit it's North Dakota, was a game where with 1:54 we get the ball, we're down by a few points, 4 points, and Avery leads, a minute and 20-second drive down the field to score. This team, when they flip a switch, it's wild, just the consistency of making plays, but it's just, they don't flip the switch enough. And if UCF is up 10-0 in the first quarter, do I think this team has the mental fortitude to fight through the next 3 quarters? The Arizona game, they were down 17-0 and they came back. Arizona made some boneheaded plays in that third quarter that helped us get there, but this team did fight back. It's playing a consistent game all 4 quarters that we're just not seeing. So I'm going to, for everybody listening, the first offensive drive for K-State, I think is going to really be a good tell as to what this game is going to be like. Because number one, K-State has not been successful scoring on their first possession all season, like in these 4 games, but also last season. This is not a team that comes out and scores on their first possession. If this team, knowing off the bye week, they've underperformed, they've underdelivered, they come through and put together a first drive and they get in the end zone, I think that's going to provide a little bit of proof to them of who they are, but it's also going to bring the environment and the atmosphere a little bit higher, because the stadium will be pretty full. Like, it's a great environment. I've been there when we have been absolutely terrible. When I was a student and, we were losing by 40 points to Texas Tech, this and that. And we always have a great atmosphere, but the fan base is a little bit apathetic right now. This is a 1-3 team that was expected to win the Big 12 or at least go to the Big 12 championship game. If this team can drive down the field on the first possession and score a touchdown, there's going to be a lot more confidence that we're going to be able to fight in this game. But if it's a lot of the same in the first drive and we have a 3rd and 7 and we convert a pass for 5 yards and we're seeing everything the same, I don't feel good, about what this team can come together and do.
Okay. One of the things that you mentioned was fan bases, and I'll get back to the team here in a minute. But one of the questions we always ask is, K-State, whether it be this year or just in general, what do K-State fans think of UCF as a member of the Big 12? Like, what's the perception around UCF? I know that there's a lot of different perceptions, and some put us in the same class as Utah as far as fan bases are concerned, but I don't think that's the case.
I would never.
But what's the perception of UCF for K-State fans?
Yeah. First off, every fan base is going to have, your trolls and your people that are going to poo-poo like every little thing about every other team, that comes in. And I was very happy with the UCF ad, for the Big 12. As somebody who, I grew up a K-State fan, I saw the Big 12 and there was a time where I didn't, as a student, and we didn't know if the Big 12 was even going to be a thing. And I have been really happy with having UCF in the conference. I think, number one, it brings a recent history in football of success. I think some of the great plays that I've seen are, Blake Bortles and Mackenzie Milton and, guys that, were really successful there. I don't know if a lot of you remember, so 2010 UCF came to Manhattan and almost beat us. And there
was a tornado.
Yeah. I was sitting in the front row of that as a student.
That was scary.
I was getting yelled at by my mom. Why am I out there? Tornado might be. But for me, I look at the UCF. I look at UCF joining the Big 12 kind of holistically, like not just football, but I think about it from a basketball perspective. And being able to bring in eyeballs from the state of Florida, you have a fan base that, like an alumni base that is relatively young. Like if you think about it, like a younger
average age is 37.
And that's where eyeballs are for, a lot of sports, right? You have, younger alumni that are going to go to games and they're going to be, when I went to the Big 12 tournament for basketball this year, I see people, UCF fans that are there. So I have genuinely been very happy, with the addition, because I do think, you have a brand that you're building, and you have a brand that has been building for years, and the success that you've had in football. You beat KU in basketball. That's huge. I mean, that's something that we appreciate.
That was on the intro video.
Yes, I saw that. I remember watching that on my phone. I was at a Nashville Predators hockey game, and we were like, "Oh my God, K's going to lose UCF." And we had that on the phone. So I've been genuinely very happy that you all have joined, and I hope any fans that are coming for the game this weekend enjoy your time in Manhattan. It's a special place. I met some UCF fans a couple years ago when it was your first Big 12 game, and I met some fans who came to the game, and just have a great time. Manhattan is such a special college town. I came there from New York and went to K-State, and I love going back. So
that is a big change. But
yeah.
We'll ask you a question about the fan experience there here towards the end.
Yeah.
You guys get a couple of your injured players back that were playmakers for you for this game. Can you tell us a little bit about them, and then tell us what the players to know are for this game? Who should UCF fans be on the lookout for?
Yeah. Well, Dylan Edwards is probably the biggest name from an injury perspective. That, he was injured on his first touch in the Iowa State game in Ireland, and he had a few touches in the Arizona game, got something, with his ankle again, and really did not play the rest of the game. We hear he's expected to play. Admittingly, I will say this: Dylan Edwards and Avery Johnson together are very special when they have it going, and we haven't had that yet. If you look back, if you've seen some highlights from the Rutgers game and the bowl game, I know it's a bowl game, but Dylan Edwards was his first opportunity to be a starter, and start in a game, and he went off in that game. They got the zone read going, and I think that's really one of our biggest strengths that we just aren't leveraging a ton. But he's expected to play. A name that I don't believe is going to be playing is Jaron Bradley, who is, was starting at wide receiver for us. I know he's on the depth chart as the starter, but I don't know if depth charts are going to be changing that much for Chris Kleiman this season from a gamesmanship perspective. Obviously I'm not super, into
He was asked today, and he was like, "I guess we'll find out on Thursday."
Yeah. I don't anticipate that Jaron Bradley will be playing in this game. He's been a surprise for me. He's kind of like a bigger wide receiver that had some success in the first 3 games. He got hurt in the Army game and did not play against Arizona. If he played, yes, that would be really good for us. But Dylan Edwards is kind of the main injury guy. I think he's a top 3 player for us from a talent perspective. He's shown it, and to have his type of speed on the field would be huge. So if he is able to give it a go and be close to 100%, not that it really changes my perception of how this team is, but it does give you really for the first time your quarterback and your anticipated starter at running back, playing a majority of the snaps. It does give a little bit of a change of what can these guys do together.
Awesome. All right. So if I were to ask you, what does K-State have to do to win this game? What are your keys to the game for K-State? And
let
us know what you think.
Yeah. On the offensive side, just consistent drives, gaining 4 yards of play. Just getting drives going. They've been killer on the third down conversions. When we do go for fourth down, it doesn't seem to be very successful. So it's putting yourself in third in very manageable situations that this team has not done. I think that's a huge key. Is just putting yourself in really good positions to try and rally drives and see where you can go from there. On the defensive side, it's getting pressure to the quarterback in a consistent manner. We saw that for a handful of these games. We have really good pass rushers. a guy, Ryan Davis, hasn't been on the field much. He's been injured. That we're hoping he gets to full strength. But we have some really talented pass rushers that just haven't necessarily been as consistent as we've probably expected. Toby Osunsanmi is a name. He's been very good getting to the quarterback this season. I'm hoping to see more from Jordan Allen. We have a 5th-year senior in Cody Stufflebean, who has been one of our best defensive players so far this year. Admittingly, our defense hasn't been like super, super great. The Army game really killed this defense. They could not get off the field against Army. And, when Army's putting together 10-minute drives, you're tiring out a defense that, just could not handle it. So can these guys get to the quarterback and get some consistent pressure and in the run game, in the run defensive game, so that you're having to, have Taven Jackson make plays and get him thinking. Depending, if the environment is tough, this is a tough place to play for a quarterback. It's a loud environment. And so one of the things historically, as a fan of K-State is how rattled can we get a quarterback? And, just trying to get some plays early on and get your quarterback thinking so you can try and win the turnover battle. So those are my 2 keys. Those are keys that, maybe we hit for one game and we don't hit for the other. We hit one of the keys for a game. But yeah, we don't hit the other. Again, this team just doesn't show any consistency.
Yeah, that's, takeaways. That's actually something we've done really, really well. And it's been a focus for our defense this year. We've actually done pretty good at protecting the football. So, by and large, this team is playing pretty soundly that way. Obviously, Coach Kleeman always has a sound football team as far as the fundamentals are concerned. So it'll be interesting to see if turnovers do become a factor. When we start to talk about the rest of the season for K-State, like, okay, you're going to be playing UCF. If K-State comes back with a win, that'll be good for conference aspirations. But what about the rest of the season for K-State? What are you expecting? Is this a rebuilding year? I know you've got a new offensive coordinator. That offensive coordinator has been playing, tinkering with things when it comes to Avery Johnson. What do you expect for the rest of the season?
Yeah, a lot of it stems with this game. If we lose at home, this is a team that, goes maybe 3-9, 4-8, and you're cleaning house in many different aspects. And that may not even include the coaching staff. It may be, trying to make changes in a lot of different aspects. But it may mean, a guy like Avery Johnson decides he wants to go somewhere else, or, some of the talent that we do have. So a lot of it does stem on what type of success can you have in this game. If K-State flips the switch from, only doing it a couple times a game to playing 3 really good quarters of football, which again, they have not done this season. And, I'm saying this as a fan, like if K-State wins this game 38-21, just for an example, our fan base is going to feel a lot better that, hey, this team scored points. This team, showed a lot on the offensive end. Maybe they can go and make a little bit of a run, win 7 of 8, something like that. If this game is close and we win, yes, it shows a little bit of resolve that this team can win a close game. Maybe it doesn't promote a lot of confidence that you go on the road next week to Baylor and to Waco and make something happen. So maybe this is a 6-6 team. A lot of it stems on this game. I mean, this fan base is like hungry for something positive, because the Arizona game, I mean, I was out on the East Coast for the Arizona game. It started at 9 p.m. and it was like pulling teeth out watching that game. And the Army game, the second half was the exact same way. The North Dakota game was the same way for 38 minutes, just pulling teeth out. So there hasn't been anything easy here. I hope for an easy game. I know you all as the opposing team, like I just want to see my team like actually be successful for 3 quarters, just putting together a game. So we'll see. I mean,
welcome
I'm
to the
excited.
Gus Malzahn experience last year.
Yeah.
Maybe it's your turn this year. I mean, let me ask you this. I don't think so, but would Coach Kleeman be on the hot seat if K-State does not do well this year?
The biggest kind of the biggest talking point right now is the success Colin Klein's having at Texas A&M as the offensive coordinator. For a lot of you watching and listening, Colin Klein was a quarterback at K-State for, he had 2 big years where he was a starter, was a Heisman Trophy finalist in 2012 in a year that we were very close to making it to the national championship game. Colin Klein was our offensive coordinator and made the move to Texas A&M in 2024. To get more experience, get out of the K-State kind of environment, and Mike Elko hired him, and he's looked good. And the fan base, look, K-State was, before 1989, K-State was the worst college football program in America. And, Bill Snyder built this program up twice. And Chris Kleiman, he came in 2019 and developed a culture at this program. We've won a Big 12, championship. You make it to a New Year's Six Bowl. We've had success. Like, this is historically a program that the floor under Chris Kleiman has been 8 wins. And for a team to not even, look like we're going to hit 8 wins, that does put the mind, the thoughts of this fan base of, is Chris Kleiman done? Is he a guy that he's not a guy that Gene Taylor, our athletic director, is going to fire. They've been joined at the hip for a long time. They've known each other for a long time. So it's going to come to the end of the season where if this team finishes 3-9 or 4-8, does Chris Kleiman feel like he wants to be coaching? Does he want to be going through this? There's going to be clamoring for a guy like Colin Klein or some type of change. I don't think it's fair to say if there's a hot seat or not, because I don't believe Chris Kleiman is going to ever be in a position where he gets fired. It's going to be he's 60 something years old. He's, does he want to retire? Does he want to step down, kind of step away? That's going to be the decision making towards the end of the year if this season really doesn't go the way it should.
Yeah, I will say this, just be glad that you didn't get Jim Leavitt and that Bill Snyder stepped in on that one. Yeah. All right. What do you expect if you were to call the score of the game, what would you expect the score of this game to be?
I think UCF comes and wins. I have seen enough in the first 4 games of this team that I don't know where the effort comes in.
I'm knocking on wood if you guys can hear that through the mic.
Yeah,
like big time.
I did not think this team was going to go to Arizona and win. I'm seeing it like a 31-28 situation. I think it's a close game. I've watched a little bit of UCF. I watched some of the highlights from the UNC game. It's sometimes hard, especially in non-conference play, to get excited watching opposing teams playing Jacksonville State, and it's hard. Like, I watch highlights. The UNC game was really my first delve into the UCF team for this season, and the UNC game, and I've seen enough of my team to know that if UCF comes in and really punches this team in the face on the road, it's going to be a rough night. We do our show tomorrow. I was going to say 31-28 UCF. Obviously, I hope I'm wrong. But a lot stems on this game for me and what this team maybe could be.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? That's 2 weeks in a row that the opposing fan base has told us that UCF's going to win. And we have been in this weird situation where, we didn't know what we were going to get because this was 63 new players on this roster, right?
Yeah.
Coach Scott Frost coming back in, new offensive line. To Mark's point, 3 weeks ago, Big 12 pundits were calling us the worst power school. Not even just in the conference, but worst power school, right? And then it was a big mistake and all that. But at the end of the day, we needed a quarterback, and we finally, I think, have figured out the quarterback situation. That was the key to our offense. Typically, we've been a really strong running team the last 3 to 4 years. Actually, even before that, we've got a history of NFL running backs. Unfortunately, this team's not going to is not doing as well in the run game, and that's largely due to the offensive line. But our pass pro has been on point. The other thing that I've noticed is that Scott has come out with different game plans for each one, and they've seemed to have executed it. Taven Jackson only had 3.5 quarters of football going into the UNC game. The rest of the time, it was other quarterbacks that were playing, right? So it's when you look at his stats, you're like, okay, well, they are there's not a whole lot of yards there, not a whole lot of TDs there. Well, that's because he didn't play for a lot of those games. That being said, I do think if UCF gets out to a fast start, it's going to be tough. It's kind of the same situation as North Carolina. I think you guys have a better offense than North Carolina, but
I think we have a better offense than North Carolina, and that's saying something about North Carolina.
Yeah, we love the Heel brothers. Had a great week with them, doing all kinds of media with them, but North Carolina's offense has some work to do.
Yeah.
Okay, so real quick, we're going to pivot real quick to some food questions, because that's one of the most important things. So we had one come in, and yes, absolutely, Tim, UCFN still have PTSD from going ongoing malls. So one question we had was, what's the best barbecue there in Manhattan? And where can folks go to get good barbecue in Manhattan?
Man, it's interesting. So obviously Kansas and Missouri, everybody talks about Kansas City barbecue, and living in Texas, I can attest.
Be glad that Andrew's not on the show this week, because he's from Kansas City. So,
Kansas City barbecue is hands down better than Texas barbecue by any stretch of the imagination. So in Manhattan, there's kind of a newer place, which I recommend, Aggieville Brewing Company. So it's just on the outskirts of town, but they have excellent barbecue. I've been there twice. I've been very impressed. I like to think I'm picky with my barbecue. And every time I've gone there, I've had really, really good barbecue. So Aggieville Brewing Company is a really good spot. It's just on the outside of town. If you're rolling in from Kansas City, flying to Kansas City, you'll pass Aggieville Brewing Company right, as you get into Manhattan. And they have an excellent outdoor space too. So great beer. If you all listeners love beer too. So from a barbecue perspective, I would probably pick there. What
about Jack Stack?
So Jack Stack, Jack Stack's good. So that's in Kansas City itself. So if we do have a lot of UCF fans making the trek that are doing the nonstop, Orlando to Kansas City, my favorite barbecue in Kansas City. Okay. I have 2 places in Kansas City. This is how it always works for people who live in Kansas City. Q39 is probably the best barbecue I've ever had, but it's more of like a white tablecloth place. Like you're sitting and whatnot. It's great.
It's dangerous, isn't it? With barbecue, white tablecloths and barbecue. I said white tablecloths.
It's dangerous.
It's dangerous, isn't it?
It's dangerous. Yeah. My favorite place to take people was a place called Char Bar. It's in Kansas City, Missouri. Has a great outdoor space. I think the barbecue is excellent. It's a little bit less casual. You're still ordering with wait staff, but it's a little less casual. When I go to Kansas City, like I'm flying there Thursday to go up to the game, I'm going Thursday night to Char Bar, like hands down. So if you're flying into Kansas City, you need a barbecue place. Jack Stack's good. Don't get me wrong. It's good. Everybody's going to have their different opinions if you, for Kansas City barbecue. So
yeah, I've been to Kansas City twice before, and I went to Jack Stack. It was pretty good. I'm going up for the game this weekend. So yeah, I was looking for definitely some Manhattan recommendations, but we're going to KC first, but then we'll be in Manhattan for the weekend, obviously.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm doing the same. So, I'm flying into Kansas City and driving over. So Manhattan, quintessential college town. Is this the right time where I can, I'll pull my plug about Manhattan? Is this good?
I was going to ask, if there was any special traditions or anything, or any areas that people should check out. One, any special traditions at games? Utah has the ski shots. We have citronauts, that kind of thing, from a food or beverage style. And then what should fans check out when they're in Manhattan?
Yeah, I can rope all that in together. So, like Manhattan, quintessential college town. Now, I've not been to the UCF campus. I can't speak. I've been to Orlando a handful of times for work and all this and that. So I can't speak to the vibe that UCF has from, and comparing it to K-State or anything. But I compare it to
not a traditional college town. You're not going to Auburn, Alabama, right? This is in the city. It's its own city within the city. It's one of the largest campuses you'll get.
Yeah, at some point I want to make it down for a game, go to the bounce house. But Manhattan, the place to go is called Aggieville. It's basically the bar district, restaurant bar district of Manhattan. That's where the college students go. That's where the locals go. There's great food. One of my favorite places is called So Long Saloon. It's kind of like a burger place, but a couple famous things that they have there. It's called it's like raspberry black bean dip, which is basically it's like raspberry sauce with cream cheese and black beans and cheese on top. And
that sounds good.
It is, if you go to Manhattan, people talk
lots
about
of cholesterol, but
people talk about, you can get it at So Long Saloon. You can get it at Taco Lucha, which is right next door. That's more of a Mexican place. So Long Saloon is my favorite burger. It's a peanut butter burger, peanut butter, bacon, sriracha, cheese, you name it. But at those two places, you're going to hear a drink called a Nancy. And a Nancy is basically like a Busch Light with pineapple juice. And people drink Nancy's like water. And you can get your Nancy with vodka in it, and they call it a dirty Nancy. You can get it with rum and call it a pirate Nancy. You could get it with vodka and rum if you're really feeling adventurous. But you have to get a Nancy when you're in town. That is a K-State thing, especially in Aggieville, at those two places. And then there's a bunch of like different bars and stuff, on Friday, Saturday night. Annie Mae's Parlor, I'm making a plug. Annie Mae's Parlor is a sponsor of my podcast, Cocaine Willy. I'm going to Annie Mae's to get a drink, and hopefully, I'll see you all out in Aggieville at some point. But I'll rope that in with like traditions and stuff. So we have a very big tailgating tradition at K-State. We will be out there as a fan base, usually, for an 11 a.m. game.
If I called you guys a bunch of Nancies, you wouldn't get offended. Is that what I'm hearing right now?
No, if you're, it's more of how many Nancies are you in at this point? Because you can drink about 4 or 5 of those things and whatnot. But yeah, so we have a very tailgating culture. People will be out there at 6 a.m. for an 11 a.m. game. Now that I've gotten older, I don't necessarily go out at 6 a.m. anymore, but like a 7 or 8 maybe. But our fan base is extremely passionate about the tailgating piece. People are going to be really nice to y'all, as you're walking through. And I'll get in contact with me. I have a tailgate. Would love to have you all stop by. Whoever's coming, just come and say hi. But when you get in the stadium, I always recommend going in like 30 minutes early, watch the band, watch the student section. There's a tradition called the Wabash Cannonball, which where students, play or with the band. The students kind of have their own thing where they alternate, and it looks really cool when they're clapping and whatnot. But the game day atmosphere is really good. When we're good, even if we're bad, it's still pretty decent. But this is a stadium that can really get up for games and really make it tough for opponents. So, I'm always excited to have, opposing fan bases, come in if it's your first time visiting Manhattan, and, just enjoy the town, enjoy the atmosphere. It's supposed to be beautiful weather, for the end of September. It's not going to be 100 degrees. And safe travels, everybody.
All right. So have yourself a Nancy and Mountain Dew when you're in Manhattan, Kansas. All right. How can people find the Cocaine Willy podcast? Obviously, I know where to find you guys, but where can folks find you?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're part of the College Huddle, which is the largest promoter of fan-driven content for college sports. It's great.
I love how he looked over to read that. Like,
no, I know I didn't read it. I just tried to remember off the top of my head. I actually don't have to read it, but you can find our podcast at Cocaine Willy on Twitter and Instagram, TikTok.
Best name ever, by the way.
Yeah. It puts us in a predicament when we want to get people from the university on the podcast, but you can find us there. I co-hosted with two awesome guys, at Bob Trollsby and at Chef Andre Napier, two great guys that we use it weekly as our therapy to talk about K-State sports. So please follow us. We put out some great content, especially during bye weeks. We try and, not necessarily talk about K-State sports all the time, but we can keep you updated with what's going on. And you can find us there. And I'm at Matt Marchesini if anybody cares, but I put out some funny tweets from time to time. So
yeah, and I know Bob Trollsby. We've done a few collabs on here. So he's you guys. The thing about your podcast is you guys are all pretty funny and smart alecky, which is what we like as a fan base. So
that's how we get along. I've known Bob. We're fraternity brothers. We went to K-State together. Chef was in addition to this whole deal, and he's probably honestly the most passionate out of the three, but his takes are a little bit obscene sometimes, so we have to tone it down a bit. But we love working with each other, and we love working with other schools. So.
All right, awesome. Well, hot takes are always a fun thing to do. All right, appreciate you jumping on here. I know it was kind of late notice for you. I know there was some shuffling as far as scheduling was concerned, so I appreciate you jumping on here. If there's anything else throughout the season that we can help you with, of course, we're here. I look forward to doing some more crossover content with you guys. And thank you for giving us a look at K-State football. Go Knights and
go Cats, Emaw.
Yeah, there we go. All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks. Have a good one.
Yeah.
All right. That was Fireball Matt. He did not talk about Fireball, so I'm disappointed. He talked about Nancies instead of Fireball. Like what happened there? I don't know. Did Trey just jump off the show too? Okay. Interesting. So I guess he's going to go have Fireball with Fireball Matt. I guess that's what's happening. There he is. He's back. Trey Neal, welcome back. Were you taking your pregame ritual there, hitting the head? Is that what happened?
No, that was like 2 seconds. I don't know what happened. My computer rebooted.
Oh, okay. Well, welcome back. Great guest. Loved having him on here. The great podcast. Did some crossover content with them, so go check them out. On the Big 12 Huddle. Let's talk about this UNC game, and then we'll get back to what our score predictions were for this game against K-State. So UCF wins 34-9. We improved to 3-0. I told you guys at the beginning of the season that I thought this game was winnable, and I thought it was just because Bill Belichick would be distracted and that whole circus would distract UNC. And it seems like that came true, which I'm happy about. Biggest surprise for me, Taven Jackson, how consistent he was. He had a couple of drops that honestly these wide receivers should have caught. 25 of 32 for 223 yards, 1 touchdown, no interceptions, but also led our rushing totals with 66 yards and 1 TD. Miles Montgomery, 35 yards, 2.9 yards per carry, 1 TD. What do you guys think of that? What do you think about our running game? I know I have my thoughts, but I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I mean, the running game has been a little disappointing. I mean, I think we knew we'd take a step back. I mean, anytime you lose someone like RJ Harvey, who's one of the best running backs in school history, there's no way it could have gone up, right? It was either going to be close to it or it was going to take a dip, and definitely a bigger dip. But I think it's more with the offensive line. I mean, we talked about in the first 2 weeks being pretty disappointed with the O-line. They did not really do that great against two quote unquote weaker opponents like in NCA&T and Jacksonville State. They did a little better, I think, against UNC, but in general, I think they're just not creating the running lanes. And, we're seeing guys like, Miles Montgomery, who's an explosive player. I think he averaged 2.9 yards per carry against UNC. I mean, outside of some massive runs by Jaden Nixon in the NCA&T game, our rushing yards per game is pretty pretty bad, actually, way below average, especially when you compare it to recent seasons where I know we were more run first. But I definitely thought our rushing attack would be a little stronger, even with question marks on the O-line. I mean, if it weren't for Taven Jackson and Ja'Cory Brown so far, our running stats would be pretty even worse than they look now. So definitely, I don't want to, have to exclusively rely on the pass, which we haven't necessarily had to. But, when we start to play these bigger defensive lines, especially in conference play, like the Kansas States of the world, we're going to need to do better, running. And so far, I have not seen it. I don't think it's Montgomery or Nixon. They clearly look explosive when they get in space, but they're having trouble with that. This offensive line is not really creating those gaps. And yeah, I think the running game needs to definitely be better, because it's been disappointing so far. Really, outside of a couple of explosive runs, it's been they're getting 2 yards, 3 yards here and there.
Yeah, the crazy thing to me, the PFF grades. Obviously, we've when we're passing offense, we're doing great. I mean, our blocking has been excellent, right? In the 60s and 70s, which for PFF is phenomenal, right? Paul Rubelt in our pass pro, 86.5. Our left guard, I hate saying this, Memelar, 82.1. Cameron Kinney, 82. Jabari Brooks, 82. Now, when we've been rotating our guards, that's the only position. Our center and our tackles have all stayed throughout the game. However, on run blocking, still not that bad. 63.8, 61.7, 61.2, 60.4, 60. So I don't know how much of this. So we score average to above average, right? But I think that our running attack, that not just last season, not just the last 4 years under Gus, but we've had traditionally a very good running attack. Is us looking at this way expecting too much? Because I do think that UNC tried to take away, they ran a lot of blitzes and they ran a lot of zone coverage. So they tried to take away the passing game, and we went sideline to sideline because when they rushed up the middle. They weren't bringing defensive backs because they were playing zone. So they were trying to bring linebackers in and blitzing or overloading the box and asking us to beat them that way. We did a pretty good job of doing that in that short passing game, which is something we've been missing. We highlighted that last week before this game, is that middle of the field and that short passing game was going to be a key to our success. And Taven Jackson did an excellent job finding the open man, and our tight ends. Our tight ends have also done very well. Something we've been screaming about with Gus Malzahn is not using our tight ends effectively. So it feels like we have a good mix to be able to attack that if we're attacked against the run game, but it's sideline to sideline. Up the middle, we've just been terrible. Trey, from your perspective, what are you seeing out of this offense as to why we're not having as much success in the running game outside of the quarterbacks?
Yeah, I mean, I just think it's the O-line. They're not really getting that movement you need. I think the play calling is really good. It's really creative. The lanes are, I wouldn't say there, but like you can watch it and see those are really good play calls to the fronts that we're seeing. It's just the guys aren't moving. Like they're not moving their defender off the line of scrimmage. And it's one thing when you're running like a big zone team, which we are running. But there's like, it's almost like we're just running down the line of scrimmage, which it's kind of good, but it's kind of an issue because now you're expecting your running backs to be superstars. There's nothing really defined. And I think that's what I really think it is. I think what Frost has done is just supplement, he notices it and just quick game. That's what you see a lot of the bubble screens, a lot of the
which were executed a lot better this past week. They've obviously been practicing that because the first two games, the blocking, the downfield blocking, the receivers on the downfield blocking, when you see us line up in trips to set up a screen or something like that, the blocking has been so much better than what it has been. Yeah.
And I think that's just it takes time. You mentioned it earlier, 63 new guys. And I think Paul Rubel's the only one that's, the returning starter. So it takes time with the O-line just to gel, figure it out. Again, that's probably the biggest position group that you have to work in tandem. Like they call them elephants on a string. Like you can't pull in a different direction or it can ruin the whole play. You can get away with it, at receiver, linebacker, deep. Like you can get away with it in other positions, but on the O-line, you all have to move and be in communication and working as one. So I think that's just what a little bit of it is. And again, they just have to get a little bit more aggressive, like Alan said. When we get into conference play, we play some really good fronts. I know that, Texas Tech can't, like, those are some good fronts up front. And we'll be tested. So far, I mean, again,
Lee Hunter showed out last week,
Yeah. And yeah. He'll be a problem. But again, I think Frost right now is just supplementing it with quick game so that he's not relying on them. And again, a 4-yard bubble screen is basically the same thing as a 4-yard run in Coach Frost's eyes and the offense's eyes. Would you like to get, Montgomery and especially Montgomery? You'd love to get him going and make it a little bit more off balance, of course. But, whatever it takes to win, we can't, in my opinion, we were complaining about wins and losses. Now we just got to get wins and losses done. But obviously we want to, build on what we built. And again, it's week 3 or week 4, but it's a progress.
Well, it's interesting because we even had mesh concepts in the running game. I don't know if you saw that, but there were some mesh concepts. Normally you have passing. So they have an option there where they can either dump it over the top of the line with just like a quick pass over there if they get the right pick, or they just hold the ball and run straight up the gut, which is interesting because you'll have 3 to 4 guys trying to basically break through the center of the A gap. And it definitely, I saw some concepts that I wasn't used to from Frost, but it was good to see him go sideline to sideline because we wore teams out doing that in 2016 and 2017. Mark says, Frost said Taven improvised away from his progressions because his reads saw openings a few times to get positive yardage. I agree with that. You saw that as well. He was pretty quick with his reads, but he also scanned the field and he got rid of the ball fairly quickly. He felt the rush pretty well, way better than UNC's quarterbacks did. Still, third down efficiency, 5 of 13, 366 total yards. So that's almost 40% on third downs. If you can hit 40% on third downs, you're going to win a lot of football games. UNC only had 217 yards. Our average yard per play actually went up in the passing game. We ended up at 7. We really need to be around 9 or 10, which is what it was before. But that was because UNC purposefully tried to keep everything in front of us or in front of them, right? So they were trying to keep it in front of them because, as we talked about last week, explosive plays is how this offense tends to win games. So the only other thing was we did get into the red zone a few times within a few yards of the goal line, and we're able to win there. And then the turnovers. You saw how aggressive this defense was. They got after it. Tip drills. The last few years, anybody who they get their hands up, even if they can't get there to the play, they've got the speed and they're getting their hands up and they're disrupting passes, which is something you didn't see in the last few years. Or if something was tipped up, nobody was catching that ball, right? So I did find that interesting and a good sign. This defense has speed and they have the ability to get after it. Josh, what were some of your takeaways from the game?
Yeah, so it was interesting. We didn't do the text talk, but I know one of the things I was talking about was the fact that I saw like 5 or 6 different, quote, running plays within the first quarter. And not all of them were like a gap up gut, right? There's a lot of different ways we were trying to manipulate running yards in some way, shape, or form. And I feel like, to Trey's point, Frost knows what we got. The team is pretty darn good at pass protection. Like you can kind of see them bending around and Taven just sitting in the pocket when he needs to, and then escaping if he needs to. It looks pretty good. And in the run game, the O-line is just not bulldozing people and opening up like like lanes, like huge lanes. So we go through all these different pieces. There was like a couple different RPOs, some straight up runs, and it's definitely throwing in Jakari Brown for like in the first series, right? That was the first series that or at least in the first two series that he came in, to be so. Whether it's Miles or Jakari or Taven on his motor, or actual, or sprints to the side, like there's just so many ways they're trying to get something other than sit back and pass that I like. I like the fact that we know what we have and we're doing our best to be efficient with it, with the players we have. We're not trying to force a square peg into a round hole, and that's encouraging. And
well, the other thing is sustaining drives. So as Mark says, don't forget to change of pace. Right before the half, we had a minute 20 left, I think was what we had left, and got that TD. And then we had a 10.5 minute run down the clock TD in the fourth quarter. It's good to see that we had the ability to do that against this defense, right? So UNC had a lot of talent on the field, and they've got Bill Belichick, and we were able to do that in both counts. The fact that we can change pace, this is not, and I told the UNC guys on their show, this is not the go fast, we're going to wear you out that way, no huddle type of offense that we're used to. There's a lot of different formations that we didn't have in 2017 that you're seeing. I was happy to see more two-back sets. We didn't use them the way that we did in 2017, but two-back sets, 21 personnel, it's something I've been screaming about, and Frost does a really, really good job with those formations. So there were a lot of good things. I felt overall I had more confidence coming out of this game, not necessarily defensively, but more on the offense. I think that I told you guys a couple weeks ago, I think we found our quarterback, and I think we ride with him the rest of the season because he has the ability to pass. He's got a strong arm. He's making better decisions. He's actually pulling the ball. He seemed a lot more confident this game than he did the previous two, and maybe that's just reps. He pulled the ball sometimes, and it was just like he did such a good job of faking it that even the announcers and everybody was, and we have the benefit of the camera. We're not on the field. I can't imagine what that looks like on the field. And he's running around on that one score and going around the other end. He just seems like he's gaining confidence week after week. And this offense and the whole team in general is getting better and better, which is what we wanted to see. Because now with Kansas State, who's a little vulnerable, if we get ahead on them like we did on UNC, I think they're going to be more deflated. And I think, this could be a game that gets away from them really, really quickly.
Yeah. We'll get to this a little bit, but they haven't scored a lot of points either. Like K-State hasn't been, other than against North Dakota,
8 points per game.
Yeah. But if you take out North Dakota, they haven't scored more than 17. So,
and Iowa State has a solid defense. I think this defense is shaping up to be a solid defense. We didn't know what we were going to have. Granted, it was UNC. They were in the same predicament we were. They're not a great team. Defensively, they weren't bad. They were decent defensively, right? So seeing what our defense could do against a power team and the size of those athletes was what I was looking for. And we got penetration. We got Malachi Lawrence, I think, had 5 QB pressures. So he didn't necessarily get sacks, but he had pressures. We were in the backfield all day long. Interestingly enough, third straight game that we've knocked out an opposing quarterback to injury. I don't know if you guys noticed that. We had 3 quarterbacks in the first one that we knocked out, or in the second one we knocked out. First one. So that's 5 total quarterbacks that we've knocked out in 3 games. So that tells you how often we were in the backfield and just the turnovers, right? Getting after it, being aggressive, not giving up on plays. We talked about it. This team has speed. You're always seeing hats around the ball. Even if a play looks like it's over, they got somebody who's slowing them down. Tackling is a whole heck of a lot better. Trey, I'd love to hear your take on that, because the tackling has looked way better. for this defense this time around. So what are your thoughts on what you're seeing out of the tackling?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I've been talking about all year is just, when you're playing these inferior teams, and UNC, they're a Power 4 school, but it was clear we were the more talented team. But when you're playing these teams, are your fundamentals right? And the main thing we talked about in the past was just tackling. These guys will tackle. If they don't do anything, they're going to come up, wrap up, and hit somebody. And I think that's always a plus, especially defensively, because they're not afraid to tackle. These guys are coming up, they're making plays on the ball. That's what you want to do, and they're striking the ball carriers. So I've loved it so far. You haven't seen a lot of the missed tackles.
You haven't had much to yell at a cloud about lately. I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, again, they're doing what they're supposed to do. I think that North Carolina A&T game was worrisome, but I think the past 2 games we can just chalk that up to a rain delay. Maybe the first 2-hour rain delay, the first game back jitters. Not having the quarterback. That we can chalk that up to a lot of things. But these last 2 games, they played a lot of really sound football. They have left some on the bone, it feels like, at least last week. I felt like there were some opportunities we could have put up a little bit more points, and I think the touchdown they did score was very preventable. But that's just nitpicking. But, again, we're about to get into the conference.
Field goals, 100%. We settled for too many field goals, 100%.
Yeah, and I think, once we get to, again, the meat and potatoes of our conference, that's where – those field goals, we need them to be points. And, some of these plays that they're making on the ball, they need to be, interceptions. Not saying it's a bad thing, just those are the plays that matter. But, I have no real gripes with how they're playing right now. I'm worried a little bit about the O-line. That's it.
I have been I've been impressed with the defensive back play too. They've been where they need in position, looking, making a play on the ball. They haven't been called, although I think there may have been a pass interference call that should have been made by the refs against UCF that wasn't called on one of the plays. But by and large, this team's played pretty clean football from that perspective. Mm-hmm. The rest of the team, however, 7 penalties for 40 yards in this game as well. Which seems weird, 7 plays for 40, right? But we're still offsides, both offensively and defensively. Again, a wide receiver was offsides again this game. So I don't know what we can do to clean that up. Because I do think in close games that's going to hurt us. And
those are the middle errors that all of my coaches have always talked about. The things you can control. It's hard to. The face mask, that's a little bit harder to control. The late hits, the targeting or the holdings. Those are things that while you're playing, it happens. That's football. But offsides, like offensively, 1, when the ball's getting snapped. 2, everybody's looking at the football. Those are the non-excusable mental errors that, like you just said, those can cost you games in crucial moments. I mean, the first game, 4th and 1 on the 1-yard line, we're about to go in and try to score a touchdown, false start. Those are game-changing plays because that, like you said, they'll go from 7 points to 3 points, and if something crazy happened, you might not get anything out of it. So I think that's a problem, like you said. Those, again, they're small, and when you're winning, you tend to look past those small things. But, again, there's a standard you want to get to. And we've talked about it earlier, it's not necessarily the wins and losses, it's the way we want to play. And those mental errors are, that's number 1 of getting you less reps and off the field. You don't know what you're doing, you're doing stupid stuff. You can't play. There's literal jobs on the line with small things like that.
At this point, there's jobs on the line for the players too, because they're all getting paid. You know what I mean? Yeah. So how do we feel like about Taven Jackson after 3 weeks and going into this game against K-State?
I mean, he's done what he's supposed to. I feel good. I'm interested just even with the whole team. Like, they've got the luxury of playing 3 home games. They haven't gone anywhere yet where about to be in the end of September, and the season started a month ago. So it's going to be interesting to see how they do on the road in a real, this is conference. This is Big 12. It's going to be a rowdy environment. No matter how bad the teams are, there's always a chance at the beginning, and I think it's early in the season to where people still have that hope that they can be really good or at least win conference, So I want to see how he performs on the road and with little adversity. I haven't seen too much adversity yet. And I think that's what makes teams is how you perform when you're down 7, down 10. Those are the things that we prided ourselves on early. In late 2016 and 2017, we prided ourselves on when we're down, who cares? We can score, we can get stopped. So that's what I'm ready to see.
All right, Alan, anything to add there?
No, I mean, I'm definitely excited to see how Taven can play in conference play. I mean, I think, it's overall been pretty up for him. There hasn't been too inconsistent. I mean, when you look at his stats, it's like it doesn't feel like when you're watching it's been anything flashy, but he hasn't been making any mistakes. Like he's been getting pretty much no turnovers. He's completing, somewhere around like 70% of his passes, and I think in 2 of the 3 games, and the other one was fairly close to that. He's playing really well, and then the added benefit of him being able to extend plays with his feet, which I didn't know. I mean, I saw, some highlights of him at previous schools, and, you saw he could run, but he didn't feel like he was a runner like, Jakari Brown is, for example. But I mean, he led the team in rushing last week, and he's been able to really do a lot with his legs that have helped us extend plays. And, like some of the plays you talked about, like that first touchdown against UNC, the fake that led to the, whatever that was, about like a 9-10 yard touchdown. So I'm pretty confident in him. It feels like we have a real quarterback again. But it is going to be interesting to see. I think we know what about the first 2 opponents. Then UNC feels like they're pretty down right now. So I want to see how he plays against a Texas Tech, a BYU, and we'll see how that goes. But as of now, I mean, there's no reason to yell on a cloud about him because he's playing pretty good.
Yeah, here's the stats for the season so far. 54 of 77, 70.1% completion percentage, 9.0 average yards per attempt, and that's with this past game being 7. So 3 TDs, 0 interceptions, 64 is his long, and a rating of 158.7. For touchdowns, he's been doing it more with his feet versus the pass. But for the month of September, we talked about Avery Johnson, right? And how he's been trending down with a 51% completion percentage. For Taven Jackson, 37 of 53, 69.8% completion percentage, 412 yards, 7.8 yards per attempt, and a 141.3 rating. So, those are great stats. So, and yes, that's absolutely right, Mark. This was his first full game. 100% agree with that. So, Josh, anything to add to that before we keep rolling on here?
So I want to say that KJ looked pretty good versus 3 games too.
That's true.
But here's the reality.
Did he look good?
AJ Jefferson?
No,
not this good.
He was horrible, and he was getting stopped by
I think TCU made us think that maybe there was something there.
That was the only good game.
I would say this. I feel like I don't know if it works. I will say this. I am excited not only because we have a quarterback again, but I feel like it's not just the quarterback. I think because of where Scott Frost is now as a coach and the team he's put together with everyone having chips on their shoulder, with all the things going on, I feel like it's the right piece with the right coach at the right time. And I do agree that I think we need 2 more games to see, regardless of what happens at either game versus Kansas in Kansas or in Orlando. I think that's really going to be the litmus test of where we really are at. And we'll find out within 2 weeks. But I'm excited And there are things that I haven't seen there since like maybe early Dylan Gabriel. It's good, and I don't think he's going to break. Like JRP was great, but
Dude, why did you even say that?
Because
Seriously,
we're already
getting
down
ready
one.
to
We're
give
fine.
you applause, and then you said that.
Hey, it's not up to me to not get hurt.
All right, let's talk about Alex Grinch real quick. UCF is 7th in the country in defensive points per game. Obviously, competition is a factor here, and top 20 in yards allowed per game. Everybody was telling us how terrible Grinch was. What do you guys think so far of his performance?
Again, competition aside, I think you can watch them and see that they're playing sound football. I was told by a lot of different people that when he was at USC, he had a lot of freelancers on that defense because of how much money they're getting made. It's hard to yell at a guy making $1 million
more than you are.
Yeah, to tell him, hey, you need to be in this gap, and he's like, well, I'm trying to get a sack and go to the NFL. It's hard to get a lot of those guys to play sound defense, and then compound that when you struggle with when you're not meeting the expectations as a program, guys just start freelancing even more. I've seen it when we were 0-12. It was a lot of freelancing, a lot of I'm going to do what I want to do instead of just playing sound football. So, you see what happens when he has a team that can buy in and utilize. I don't know if you guys know our defense, like you said earlier, they're fast. Like everybody.
They have a lot of speed.
They all can run, which that gives a lot of teams problems when if you don't have the speed to counter that, it's suffocating. Those teams is we are suffocating them. We can play off, but we close the distance so fast. That's why, like when we're talking about tackling, there hasn't been a lot of like catch the ball and a lot of big runs after, or they get a run play and not a lot of yak. Yeah, it's because these guys are fast. I think Coach Grinch is coaching well. I know he's fiery, and I know I saw the little post where they were talking about like Bill Belichick called him Central Florida, and those guys took it personal. And I think
no, he didn't say Central Florida. He forgot the Florida part. He just said Central.
Oh wow, yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's the edge that I've always wanted. Like I talked about, I never saw in the game where I would stand there and for anything. It was always when everything's going good, which so far has. But that's the edge that I like to see that you play with. That motivates you. And I know Coach Frost. He feeds into it because he was a former player. He feeds into.
Well, that's what I said. Like the first game, he was all like quiet and stuff on the sidelines. Like I want him like having his get back guy, like holding him back before he yells at a ref and throws a clipboard and whatever. I want that 2017 Frost.
Yeah, and I think right now he's building it back up. And I think again it was that you want to show like. It's that weird, you kind of coming back home but it's just a weird feeling, but I think he settled in. And I think now he's leaning into that underdog mentality because that's what he's thrived in a sense, so it's
Alan, anything to add to that?
I put that question on the notes just because I think even when I posted when he got hired, I posted just a general post that, hey, we hired our new DC. There was a lot of criticism. I think a lot of people just probably read message boards and they read X and, the USC fans that really complained about him. But at one time, this guy was a rising star, expected to be a head coach one day. And he had some good stints in other places like Oklahoma, Washington State. And I think the defense, and I'll talk about it in my fun fact of the week. That's been to me the highlight of this team. Yeah, there's been some exciting moments on offense, but when you talk about, they haven't given up more than one touchdown in any game this year. And I know we have to look at the opponents, but the defense has been fun to watch. They're high flying. They're actually getting turnovers. The tackling is just so much better. It's so noticeable.
Yeah.
It feels like that defense can keep us in any game. It feels very reminiscent of that 2016 team, which I know ended up, going 6-7. But that year, the defense was so far ahead of the offense, and the gap is probably less this year. But It's just nice to know, like, it feels like that very kind of stout defense that you can really rely on. And it's not just the secondary or not just the D line. It's kind of on all levels of the defense feels very, very reliable. And it's fun to watch. And it's kind of, I think the offense always will be the thing that fans like to see. But when the defense can get a 3 and out, or, if it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, and you feel pretty confident that the other team's not going to get a first down, it's a good feeling. That's how it's kind of been this year with the UCF defense. And I think Grinch deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, I agree. I think he's showing the skill sets that he showed to get to USC and those other places that he was at. And, to Trey's point, a lot of those players, it was the same problem that Gus Malzahn had as well. He was getting pushed back from a lot of those players, but he was recruiting a lot of those type of players, right? So it's kind of a circular argument. All right, let's go ahead and swivot to our keys to the game. Nice. So, big keys for me is, can we keep the defensive line out of the backfield? Because this offensive line has had trouble in the running attack. Are we going to get the ball out quickly like we did against UNC? That was obviously something that was an emphasis for us, because there were some concerns there. I think the other thing is just edge contained for Avery Johnson. He has the ability to run. They've had a week and a half off. He's got a new offensive coordinator, so I think he's tried to pull back the reins a little bit on that running. But can we keep him contained on the edges? And then, as far as us getting pressure, I think this defense is going to have a field day in getting into the backfield. What I don't want this to be is a defensive slog. So if we can get them behind, get them a touchdown or 2 behind, I think that our defense is good enough that pretty much seals the game for us, because I think we're going to get after Avery Johnson. So for me, the keys of the game are, can we hold off their D-line and make sure that we don't have turnovers? And can we contain Avery Johnson along the edges and get pressure, which I think we will. And if we do those 3 things, I think they haven't done well passing. They're not a good running team, and their offensive line, as our K-State insider told us, is not very good. And that's one of our strengths, is that defensive line and that vaunted defense that we've been talking about. So Mark says this could be a magical team. Even Frost seems surprised how fast the players got it all together. I think so too. The big thing that, and I hate to bring this up, that kind of worries me that might throw a curveball in this, is how does this team react to the unfortunate passing of Coach Sean Clark, right? These guys, they're in their 18 to 20s, and they're 18 to 24, 24, maybe 25 years old. Dealing with a loss like that is very, very difficult to deal with at 40. So, this is probably the first time they've ever had to deal with that, unfortunately. And, fortunately that they haven't, but unfortunately, with the loss of Coach Clark, and I think that's gonna get a big toll, and then they're hitting the road as well. So hopefully they use it as motivation. They do it for Coach Clark. I think this team, we were waiting to see whether they were going to grow or not. And I think the biggest part of all of that, with what Coach Scott Frost has brought to the table and the team that he's brought around him, is this. Right? One team, one heartbeat. So I think that's made the difference for this year. All right. Just in the interest of time, because we're 1:33 in, let's go ahead and recap our pick your poison score predictions for this week and where we landed for last week. So for last week, UCF won 34-39. Allen had a low scoring affair, 24-20. So the difference was 21 points. So obviously for this week, unfortunately, Allen did not win this week, but he wasn't the highest score. He actually tied with Tim. So Tim, Mark, you guys, you're going to have to give us your score predictions. Tim had 28-24, a difference of 21. Next up was a Trey with the highest score differential. We had the score at 23-20, so that was a 22-point difference. Then it was Ben Stout, 24-17, 18-point difference. And then I was next up, 38-21, 14-point difference. And the winner for last week was AP, who had a 35-21 score and 13-point difference. So that could have been an even bigger differential. If you guys remember, I thought it would have been higher than, I could very well have been higher than that if we would have scored touchdowns instead of field goals on a couple of those drives. This very easily could have been a 42 or 48 point, game for us. So going back, Mark says K-State has given up 3 times as many points as the Knights, and they lack a run game, has put all the pressure on Avery Johnson. I think, yes, it's put pressure on Avery Johnson, but that combined with a new offensive coordinator who's running a completely different scheme, which does not favor Avery Johnson, hasn't helped matters either. Okay, so for this week, we play K-State in Manhattan, Kansas. They're going to be hopped up on Nancies and Mountain Dew. So what do we think this week? Alan, let's go ahead and start with you. We did not get Ben's score. We did get Ben's score.
It's prediction in the text.
Hold on. He says this is going to be Ben says my score prediction is this game is a serious toss-up. They have underperformed this year, but also played better teams than we have. This is going to be close, but I'm not predicting a loss. 24-27 UCF. So I'm going to do 27-24 because that's how we have this on here. So Ben Stout, 27-24 UCF. Alan Levin, what's your score prediction?
My score prediction, I'm going to go another low scoring. I feel like this is a game that, we know Kansas State offense is not great, and our offense has looked a little better recently. So I am going to go 27-17. Good guys.
Wow. Okay. Trying to lowball Ben there. All right.
I like the 27, but I think Kansas State's offense isn't good and our defense is better. So,
all right. Trey Neal, what have you got for us this week?
Yeah, I think we're going to jump out fast. That's going to be my key, is just jump out quick and get up early so we can kind of put the pressure. I think we win 31-20. Close to 10. 31-20.
31-20. Interesting. All right. Josh Lazar, what is your score prediction for this week?
So I keep going back and forth on this, and I wanted to bring Kansas State lower because they still haven't scored more than 17 points on anyone worth a heartbeat. That's an FBS. And so I was even going to go lower because of how our team's defense is doing, but I still think 17 is probably fair. But I think we put it together. I don't think this is a low-scoring game. I'm at 38-17. I think this is going to be. I think this is going to be the coming out session that we expect it to be, where everything hits on all cylinders, and we go out early, 14-0, 10-0, something like that, and they just can't come back.
All right. Tim in Florida has UCF as a winner, 31-21 UCF. Mark chimes in. He's got UCF winning 35-31. He said crowd noise will be a huge challenge. Okay. So I don't think it'll be as big of a challenge because we've got the green dots these days. So it's not like it used to be, except for cadence. So, Mark, if we jump off sides quite a bit, then yeah, that could kill some drives. I'm kind of with Josh on this one. I actually was thinking 38-17, but obviously I'm not going to say the same thing. So I'm going to go I want to say 30. I'm going to say, you know what? I'm just going to, hot take of the week for me. I'm going to say 42-31 17 UCF. I'm going to one-up you. Sorry, Josh, but I literally was thinking 38-17 when you did it.
I had it typed in for over 2 hours, but I was going to actually lower the 17-13 and keep with the one touchdown every game, but I don't. That is amazing. The defense, I know who we've played, but the defense, man, the defense has done so good. So they might only give up another touchdown and a couple of field goals. I feel like that's possible. So I get
All
it.
Right. Well, let's go ahead and swivet yet again for other UCF news before we give a shout out to our listeners and viewers. The ACC is going to 9-game conference schedule as the SEC did. What that means for UCF is there are some games that are now in jeopardy. We have a series, a home and home series with Pitt. One of those, they played the first game of their rivalry game with West Virginia, and I doubt that they're going to want to give that return game up. So it'll be interesting to see if we keep all of those games that are on the schedule, but I have a feeling we're not. Florida did surprisingly say that they were going to keep us on the schedule after that 9 games, so we'll see what happens there. As far as Big 12 scores for Big 12 scores for this week. Obviously, UCF won 34-9. Tulsa beat Oklahoma State 19-12. Wow. Sorry, Oklahoma State. Calvin from our sister podcast on the Huddle. I felt really bad. Texas Tech put up 24 points in the fourth quarter to win 34-10 against Utah. Big Lee Hunter had a huge game for Texas Tech. And it was a close game throughout. First quarter, it was 7-0. Texas Tech, second quarter, both teams put on 3. Nobody scored in the third. Utah has a really good defense as well. So it was interesting, but they put up 24 in the fourth. TCU pulled it out against SMU. Again, another really, really close game going into the fourth. West Virginia, wow. 41-10 Kansas against West Virginia in conference play. Arizona State beat Baylor 27-24, another really close game. So the Arizona State pulled it in the end. BYU beat our friends from East Carolina, the Fighting Grimaces, 34-13, and Colorado beat Wyoming 27-20. So where does that leave the standings right now? Iowa State's number 1 and tied with Texas Tech. Both are 4-0. Texas Tech actually is ranked higher in the polls. Houston is 3-0. Arizona State is 3-1. Kansas is 3-1. Arizona is 3-0. So we are tied with Arizona, BYU, and TCU in conference. Cincinnati is also 3-0. And Oklahoma State is 1-2. So that's where we reside. There's a whole bunch of ties, but that'll start to break here soon. UCF did receive 3 votes in the AP poll this week. So congratulations. The Big 12 also gained another ranked team. We now have 4 ranked teams versus 3 last week. And it was announced that our game against Kansas will be at 3:30 on FS1. All right.
No, it's at 7:30 on ESPN2.
What? Are you sure?
Pretty certain.
Well, maybe I read that wrong. Okay.
I'm going to triple check that only because I'm going to be out of town. And I'm like, yes, I can stay out of town for a little bit, then take the game at night. But I'll triple check it. But I'm pretty certain it's ESPN2.
I'm surprised because Kansas right now is 3-1.
Yeah.
If we beat K-State, that would be a pretty good game. I thought I read it was FS1 at 3:30, but I must be
the Big 12. FS. We have nothing on FS1. Actually, there's no 3:30 game for the conference. No, it's Saturday, 7:30 p.m. on ESPN2.
I stand corrected, but it was announced. So there you go. You have the correct news. Let's go ahead and swivet once again to a little bit of listener love. You guys were extremely boisterous with this UNC game. The Heel brothers also had a lot of their fans going back and forth with us. So shout out to Knight U1642 said, I pray UCF beats UNC this Saturday, but I'm excited to have the greatest NFL head coach of all time at the Bound House. Go Knights, charge on. We said we were excited too, but that might be a stretch on the greatest. Pats fan, anyone? Thank you for watching and commenting. Spare Room Film comes back a day ago and says, hey, your prayers were answered. It was a boat race, start to finish. And then next, C Boggs 59 says, well, the 46-7 was close to the final score. Ha 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 ha.
I wish I would have played that.
Luke Griffith destroyed by UCF 34-9. Go Knights. Brecken Walvord. Sorry if I screwed that up. 0-13 looking good. Not looking good. I think he's a UNC fan. Econ Advisor will hit us up 3 times this week. He said, we'll get the biggest ratings in years. Knights have a great shot to impress. It's going to be a war. Will Bill use some of the complex coming from everywhere blitzes Jack State use? Can the new line protect Taven, especially against blitzes? Ray Calamar says Charlotte put 250 yards against UNC. Econ Advisor also said Taven may need a 350-yard game for UCF to keep up and overcome turnovers. Well, that prediction did not work out. But thank you, everyone who participated. Make sure you like, comment. We do respond to each one of those, and obviously we talk about them during the show. Welcome to new subs, Seabogs59, Nicholas Oliveira, and Daniel Lovato, which I was actually able to see your names this week. On Twitter, Carly, I'm sorry, I don't know how to say this yet, Guile, Guile, new softball commit. She followed us and jumped on board. AJC0724, Cole Kozlowski, too. You should know that name. Schmidt talking, Chavis Dickey 79. Remember Chavis Dickey, our former UCF player. Coach Pointer, Atine 3, it's your boy Styles, and Derek P. White. Welcome to the fam. So thank you everyone who follows, who likes, who watches. Make sure you tell your friends. It's so important that you comment and that you're part of the show. Thank you to everyone during the show. I don't get to all of you. Tim in Florida, Mark Soskin, as always. There were a few new folks in here as well. You make us better. So keep them coming. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. We have literally 20,000 views and 250 subscribers. So help us out with the subs. We really do appreciate it. All right. With that being said, let's go ahead and swiv it yet again. To Alan's oxymoronic stat of the week. Alan.
All right. So just got 2 free tonight. So UCF has started out 3-0 for the 3rd year in a row and the 6th time in the last 9 years. So UCF seems to get off to a good start, at least in the past decade. But talking about the defense, I alluded to it earlier. So the defense is definitely leading the way for the team. Right now, we are number 5 in passing yards allowed with just 117 passing yards per game. When's the last time you could say that about a UCF secondary? Certainly not during the Gus Malzahn era, but that is something we were pretty used to prior to Gus.
Baby, DBU.
Well, yeah, exactly. Prior to Gus, yeah. So then we're number 7 in points per game, just allowing 8.7 points per game. We have not allowed more than 1 touchdown in any single game so far. So it's just been a touchdown and a field goal or less. And overall, we are number 20 in yards allowed per game, total yards. So our total defense ranks in the top 20. And then the big one, though, we are tied for number 2 in red zone defense. We're giving up just 50% scores when team get in the red zone. 3 of just a total of 6 attempts all season long. There's only been 6 times that in 3 games that teams have been in our red zone. And we are tied for number 2. The only team ahead of us right now is Ohio State, who actually has not given up 1 red zone score all season long. So that is where we are at right now. Defense is looking good, and that's your ironic or oxymoronic stat of the week.
Interesting. Yeah. This defense, it's nice to have a defense again. So thank you. Tip of the cap, Alex Grinch. I hope we continue it. fast. The UCF fast on defense is back. It's one of those things where, to Trey's point, we've said it all season long so far. You see a lot of hats that are at the point of attack, right? So we've got a guy that's hitting somebody, slowing them down. There's 3 or 4 UCF jerseys around that ball carrier right away, and that's that. It doesn't matter whether you're talking about the D line, you're talking about the linebackers. We've got speed on linebacker. We've had traditionally slow linebackers, bigger linebackers under Gus Malzahn, and you can really see the difference. One of the guys that we didn't highlight from this past week's game was Lewis, right? So he linebacker for us, and Kozlowski, actually we talked about it last week. He was in the twos. He actually made it to the field with the ones this week. So both of those guys have been tearing it up at the linebacker position. So good all the way around. Josh, let's go ahead and swiv it yet again to your sometimes funny fact of the week.
So UCF has been around for some time, and we have an overall record, football record, which I don't know why no one had anything online that I could find that we have had our 300th overall win as a university, but we're 300, 242-1, and we're, according to Winspedia, 61st out of 134 teams in FBS. Does Kansas State have a lower or higher all-time record percentage?
Lower.
All-time winning percentage that's higher or lower than ours, you're saying?
Correct.
Well, they definitely played in a lot more games. Yeah, I'm going to go with lower also.
You're right. We're 61st. How much lower do you think they are out of 134?
I'm going to go
say... Oh, go ahead, Alan. Sorry.
I'm going to go, can't be that much lower because they've been pretty good during the Snyder and the Kleiman era. I'm going to go, you said we're 61st?
Yes.
I'm going to say they are 68.
Roger?
I was going to go 71.
They have a winning percentage of 463. They're 580 and 677 and 42 ties all time for 115th out of 134. That's what I said.
Wow.
Because we're all in our 40s, and we've seen Kansas State over the last 20 years be really good. I think they've been really bad before that. So yeah, that floored me when I saw that.
Well, we heard our guest talk about that this week. Before 1989, they were the worst team in college football. So that doesn't surprise me as much, but I didn't think they were that far down considering they're a power team.
Yeah.
So I don't know how dangerous Colorado actually is this year, Mark. I don't have a lot of confidence in them. So, all right. So let's go ahead and swiv it one more time.
Swiv it one more time.
To Josh's quick update on other UCF sports that Alan does not watch, and probably Trey too, but that's okay.
And Andrew, but Trey will watch softball. UCF women's sports is now 6-1-1 on the season. They tied West Virginia 0-0 last week. The team goes on an Arizona road trip with their first stop in Tucson. That's on Thursday, September 25th at 10 p.m. Eastern. So, if you're up late. And Sunday, September 28th at 4 p.m. in Tempe versus number 17, Arizona State. Now, the women's soccer team is doing good. The men's soccer team, not so much. They are 2-4-1, losing their first Sun Belt Conference game to number 22 Kentucky 2-3. The next game up is also a conference game. Remember, we're in the Sun Belt, and the Sun Belt is the fun belt for soccer. We're playing against South Carolina in Columbia on October 4th at 7 p.m. Now, a team that is doing well is the UCF volleyball team. They are 9-3. They lost at home to number 21 Baylor 0-3, but they swept the Alabama road trip with 3-1 wins at both Memphis and Alabama. The team starts conference play versus Cincinnati on September 24th at 6 p.m. So I attended the first women's basketball practice that happened today. The full schedule is also out now. I will say this. Is there? Oh, there's music in the background now. I didn't know I had a bed underneath this. So I'm expecting a fast squad. The practice it's the first practice. Who knows when conditioning happens and what the first practice looks like? But I think there's a lot of possibilities here. I will say this: number 12, Kiana Cox. She was great. She ran her butt off. She was wonderful, and I hope that her scoring abilities match her intensity. So I think she's going to be probably a starter on the team, I guess. I think some of the 3 freshmen are going to get minutes on the floor this season. I believe number 30, Savannah Scott or Sav, she's going to be nice in the post if she gets the ability to get there. There's a lot of pieces of this team. It's going to be kind of interesting. So their first official game is November 3rd at 6 p.m. versus Bethune-Cookman. We didn't talk about men's basketball, but they also had their first practice of the game of the year today as well. So I don't know if they were after or before. When I practiced, I'm thinking before. Women's golf finished 5th at the Schooners Classic, posting a 5 under. Oklahoma State took that title at 18 under. 2 nights also finished in the top 15 of all athletes. We get a 2-week break, and the Knights travel to the Illini Invitational and Medina Country Club in Chicago on October 6th and 7th. UCF men's golf finished the Bearcat Invitational at 15th place. They are also doing, they look to improve upon that finish at the Ironwood Collegiate Classic in Greenville, South Carolina on September 29th and 30th. And Yvonne Sandui lastly earned the UCF Cross Country's first ever Big 12 Runner of the Week honors. She delivered a 17:11 and 9/10 of a second 5K. She finished 19th out of over 500 runners. That was the 3rd fastest 5K in UCF history, and she's the 2nd fastest woman, as Anne-Marie Blaney has the top 2 records. And that is all of these sports that Alan and Andrew and probably Trey do not watch. Back to you, Roger.
Wow, that was a lot. And sorry I started the music a little early, but you had a lot of stuff that wasn't on here on the notes, so I thought you were coming to a close.
I have my own notes. I put the notes in a new tab, Alan. So, yeah.
All right. Well, I'm gonna finish the show the way that I started it. Right. As much as we love UCF, and as much as sports are important, and as much as we love all of y'all, and the fact that we get to share this with you, let's everyone just give a few moments to Sean Clark and his family. This week and today specifically. I know I've said my prayers. If you're so inclined, I hope you do too. Life, we do a lot of things in life that make us happy, that stress us out, etc. But it can be taken all too quickly. And so prayers up to them. Again, if you check out our Twitter timeline, we have we have posted a GoFundMe that's been created for the family. So if you choose to participate, it's appreciated. Prayers for the family, obviously. Prayers for the UCF family as well, because the players themselves knew Coach Sean Clark, and I hope they make it through it. So it's tough. At the end of this, at the end of this episode, I just want to finish it with thanks. So thank you guys for doing this with me. Thank you to our K-State Insider for joining us. And thank you to all of you for watching, liking, subscribing, commenting, and being part of the show. Go Knights and
charge
on. Lashana Tova, everyone. Happy New Year. I hope you go eat your apples and